Pulsechain and PulseX are launching very soon, and one of the keys to success has always been the preparation. That's why I decided to make an in-depth video on how to prepare for the launch. Because if you are not approaching this with any strategy, there is a very high chance of messing up and actually lose money. So in this video I'm gonna cover what are the risks involved during the launch, how to act in the short term, and how to approach your long-term strategy, which will be the best performing coin on Pulsechain. And I have some very interesting analysis that you definitely don't wanna miss out. But before we start, I wanna say that this might be one of the most important videos about Pulsechain that I've made, and I highly recommend you to watch it very carefully, because I'm pretty sure most of you who sacrificed for Pulsechain and PulseX allocated a hefty amount, and people who are about to buy either of these tokens are also probably gonna put a decent amount, so preventing any mistakes here is crucial. I also wanna say that this is not financial advice, and the content that I make is only for educational purposes. Now let's go ahead and jump in. So we are all in a pre-launch mode, where every day could be our last day of waiting, and it's crucial to approach the launch event with a well-configured strategy and stick to it, without letting your emotions prevail. So the first thing I wanna start off with is to get ready for the snapshot, and actually do it as soon as possible if you haven't already. And all I mean by that is to put all your ERC20 tokens from exchanges into your MetaMask wallet or a hardware wallet like Trezor or Ledger. This is the only way to get your PRC20 copies for free, and as long as you have them on your MetaMask or on a hardware wallet, you're all set, and you don't have to do anything else. Also, if you think that Hex has a decent chance to be the top performer on the Pulsechain network at least for a while, now is the best time to buy it, as you'll receive a copy on Pulsechain basically at launch price. This way you place your bet on an already successful project while you're riding the wave on both chains. And if you buy PHEX after launch, you might never get it at the same price and you'll have only one coin. In my last video I promised that I'll talk more about the potential of PHEX, and here we are. I think way too many people are debating between Pulsechain and PulseX and which one is gonna be the top performing coin on the Pulsechain ecosystem. I think because of the excitement of these two projects they forgot about PHEX, and I'm here to tell you that it's definitely worth keeping it under your radar. First, Richard Hart said that probably the best performing coin on the Pulsechain network will be the one that has the most liquidity backing it up. He also said that this probably would be Hex, and then he just added Pulsechain and PulseX because he can't be 100% sure and he doesn't want to point the audience in one direction. If we take a look at the testnet and which token has the most liquidity and trading volume, we can clearly see that this is not Hex, and even PulseX has better stats, but this only tells us half of the story because the testnet is far from what will be on the mainnet. On the testnet you have something called PLS Faucet, where you can claim worthless tokens to play around with on the DEX. This definitely has strong impact on the data, and the fact that people are curious mainly about the Pulsechain and PulseX tokens also has to be considered. What I personally can accept as more relevant data is the actual money numbers. So if we take a look at the amount sacrificed for PulseX, that is $1 billion, and people will get a little bit over 17 trillion PLSX tokens in return, including the volume bonus. For Pulsechain, people sacrificed $670 million, and unfortunately we don't have the number of tokens that will be airdropped in return. But for easy math, let's assume they will be around 10 trillion. So we have 17 trillion airdrop for PulseX and 10 trillion for Pulsechain. On the other hand, we have Hex with only 582 billion tokens circulating supply and 60 billion Hex tokens staked. So that will be 642 billion tokens airdropped on the Pulsechain network to Hex holders, because a staked Hex will also be airdropped. So basically this 642 billion Hex tokens represent 15 times lower tokens than Pulsechain and 26 times fewer tokens than PulseX. And what does that tell you? Well, what we know so far is that all the coins from the airdrop will have no value, and as soon as they become tradable, the market will decide how much each token is worth, but what we don't know is how much their total supply would be. This is crucial because it's one of the key factors that determine the price of the coin, and with such a big difference in the amount of tokens airdrop, I wanna see how this is gonna be adjusted. I'm not the most tech savvy person, and usually when a new coin is launched, you have an ICO, which stands for initial coin offering, where you buy the coin at the lower than the launch price. Also, you have all the information about the tokenomics, how much will be the total supply, circulating supply and all that, but here the things are completely different. You sacrifice your valuable coins for a coin that is yet to be launched, and it will have no value at the start, with the only intention to give you better returns over time. And that's fine if you believe in the project, but there are too many unknowns to connect the dots. We have some information about Pulsechain and PulseX, which are at the center of all this, but we don't know much about PHEX, and I don't want to be caught off guard. As far as I know, the total supply of PulseX is going to be 170 trillion, which represents basically 10x from the airdrop supply. Are they going to keep the same ratio for PHEX, or are they going to use some other formula? Because with a significantly lower circulating supply, PHEX could start trading at a much higher price than PulseX and Pulsechain, which immediately opens the door for higher returns if you buy Hex now before the snapshot. And I talk about Hex in this case and not about all the rest of the ERC20s, because we all know that most probably the best performing coin will be one of those three, and the question here is which one exactly. It is also very important to mention that there are currently 460,000 wallets that hold Hex, and wallets who have sacrificed for Pulsechain are almost 42,000, which is only around 10% of the Hex holders. The numbers for of PulseX are a bit different, and we have almost 140,000 wallets that sacrificed, but this is still only 30% of the wallets that hold Hex. Also, we have $1 billion worth of tokens sacrificed for PulseX, and $670 million sacrificed for Pulsechain. On the other hand, the total value locked for Hex is $7 billion, and that is basically how much just the staked Hex is worth. The worth of the circulating supply is $70 billion at the current prices. So what we see right off the bat is, the numbers are definitely in favor of Hex. There's way more money backing Hex right now than Pulsechain and PulseX combined together. I won't be surprised if the majority of the Hex community decides to support PHEX and try to make the same gains that Hex made on the Ethereum network. I also won't be surprised if Richard Hart set up the whole thing to be in favor of PHEX, as he wants to be beneficial for the Hex holders, the same way he wanted to be beneficial for the Bitcoin holders back in the day when he was launching Hex, where you could claim free Hex if you hold Bitcoin. And we also don't have to forget the fact that the main reason Pulsechain was started was the high fees on the Ethereum network that Hex takers have to pay. And another thing that we have to consider is that Hex is a store of value, same as Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is the #1 cryptocurrency by market cap. Pulsechain is a blockchain like Ethereum, and we know that Ethereum has so many use cases, but still has only half the market cap of Bitcoin. So for one reason or another, people tend to value store of value coins more than the blockchains. And we could argue that when the Ethereum 2.0 comes out and switch over to proof of stake, increase the transaction speed and lower the transaction fees, it might overtake Bitcoin. But of course no one can guarantee that. And I know there are gonna be a lot of people in the comments saying that Ethereum 2.0 won't lower the transaction fees. And that's basically because Richard Hart always says that. But that's not true. The merge won't lower the transaction fees, but that's just one of the phases of Ethereum 2.0. When all the phases are done, the implementation of shard chains and rollups will in fact lower the transaction fees and increase the transaction speed. Yes, we might have to wait another year or two for all this to be done, and Pulsechain hopefully will offer it right off the bat. But I just wanna say that Ethereum won't lower its transaction fees when it transitions to Ethereum 2.0 is just a false statement. And I'm perfectly fine taking all the dislikes and hate in the comments because I'm saying that about Richard Hart. But at the end of the day, the main purpose of this channel is to give you an unbiased perspective and give credit when the credit is due. I'm not gonna keep away the facts from my audience just because some people might not gonna like them. But anyway, the whole point here was that Bitcoin is a store of value and has 2 times larger cap than Ethereum. So if we take into account everything that we said so far, I think PHEX has a decent chance to be the best performing coin on the Pulsechain network. Of course, I'm not saying that it will be. I'm just showing you the facts and my analysis, and you decide for yourself how much weight these facts add to this theory. But to be perfectly honest, no one really knows which coin is gonna pump harder, PHEX, PLS or PLSX. However, I highly doubt that this would be PLSX, but I don't recommend you to write it off completely. It just has the smallest chance in my opinion. So a good strategy here could be to hold 3 of them, or take a reasonable risk to bet more on PLS or PHEX if you want to, or just stay on the safe side and have an equal amount in all 3 of them and watch how they will perform. If you see a massive pump in a short period of time, there is very likely to be followed by a massive 80 to 90% correction. And those of you who want to play at high risk and high reward, you can take the opportunity to sell at the local top and buy the bottom shortly after. If you're not experienced, I don't recommend you do that, and just play at low risk and stick through the highs and lows for maybe a year or 2, and the reward's still gonna be great. However, I think something very similar to what happened with the ApeCoin launch could play out, where Bored Ape Yacht Club and Mutant Ape Yacht Club NFT holders got free ApeCoins airdrop, and in the first hours when the price pumped significantly, they've dumped it on the investors. As I said in one of my previous videos, it's also good to consider that it might play very similar to what happened with Ethereum and Uniswap, as Pulsechain is a fork of Ethereum and PulseX is a fork of Uniswap. However, Pulsechain and PulseX will work in a completely different way. They have the same founder, launched at the same time, but unfortunately that's the closest example we can get. It's obvious that in this case the blockchain outperformed the DEX, but I talked more in depth in this video about why we can also see Pulsechain performing better than PulseX, and you can go ahead and check it out if you want to. But what we'll see in this video is some very interesting similarities in the performance of blockchains and DEXs. So we all know that Bitcoin leads the whole crypto market, and if Bitcoin is going up, the crypto market is also going up. And if it goes down, the market goes down with it. So in the last cycle, Bitcoin rallied to the upside 2 times. Once between October 2020 and May 2021, and the second time was from July 2021 until November the same year. So let's see now how the blockchains did at that time. That's Ethereum from October 2020 until May of 2021. Then we have July of 2021 until November. We can see an almost identical move, putting an all-time high on both rallies and going down at the same time as Bitcoin. Another major blockchain to look at is BNB. Again, in October 2020, started slowly to run to the upside and peaked in May of 2021. The second rally started and finished at the same time as Bitcoin and Ethereum. but this time it didn't put a new all-time high, but it certainly performed very well and followed the move of Bitcoin. And one more example is Solana. On the first rally of Bitcoin, we can't say that Solana followed it right from the start, but at least it peaked at the same time. On the second leg in July of 2021, Solana followed Bitcoin perfectly and we saw a new all-time high at the same time. However, that was the blockchains. Let's see how the DEXs did. Uniswap saw the same massive move to the upside that peaked in May of 2021. But on the second leg up made a very modest pump, which was not even close to the previous top. Moreover, it didn't even follow Bitcoin at that time as Bitcoin was going up in November, but instead kept going down since September. PancakeSwap is another example. On the first run up it puts a new all-time high at the same time in May of 2021 following Bitcoin. Then we see the same correction, and another rally in July that basically finished again in August, while Bitcoin is going up until the end of November. Here, I also want to point out something very interesting, that PancakeSwap launched in the middle of a bull market, and that didn't stop it from making around 70% correction while the whole market was going up. And if I switch to 1 hour chart, we can see that this initial pump happened in the first hour. So be careful everyone out there who wants to get in as early as possible, because you might be buying the top. And people who bought the top in this example saw the same price after 2 months, and they could have been in a much better position if they waited for the correction. But anyway, I want to show you one more example, which is pretty much the same. This is SushiSwap, and it saw a massive pump at launch, then a major correction of more than 95%. After that rode the wave with Bitcoin on the first leg up, and the same thing happened again on the second leg up. So it's not just one or two, they all do the same thing. So what we see in these comparisons is that generally, blockchains tend to do much better than their DEXs, and we don't have to ignore this fact. Many people talk about PulseX too exaggerated in my opinion, and that is most probably because they sacrifice only for PulseX, and they just want the price to go up and they are simply biased. They point out the bullish tokenomics of PulseX, the buy and burn function and the staking. But somehow they forget that Pulsechain is also deflationary and burns 25% of each transactions. And Hex also offers staking with a pretty decent APY of around 40%. But only 10% are actually taking advantage of that and stake their Hex. So the whole theory that PulseX will clearly outperform Pulsechain is kinda falling apart. Of course, I'm not saying PulseX won't perform well, or it couldn't surprise us, but I form my opinion based on facts and I personally prefer to focus more on Pulsechain and PHEX in the beginning. However, Pulsechain and PulseX will launch in a bear market, and the gains that could have been made a few months ago, when the market conditions were completely different, might not be the same now. The interest rates keep going up and they won't stop in the next couple of months. This means that we most likely are going to see a systematic downtrend in the market, and it will last until the economy gets stabilized. You should be extremely cautious in these kinds of conditions on the market, and I recommend you to take your time before making any decision and don't rush. Trying to outsmart a market full of human emotions can only get you wrecked, and a lot of people will make stupid decisions when there is a high market volatility. As I said earlier, I expect the price within the first hour at launch to go absolutely parabolic for Pulsechain, PulseX and PHEX, and then a massive correction of 70 to 80 or maybe 90%. Like what we've seen in the past with other good projects. And if you think that this time we might not see a correction, let me remind you that 42,000 people sacrificed for Pulsechain 1 year ago, 140,000 people sacrificed for PulseX half a year ago, and these people didn't have access to their money whatsoever. Recently, Terra Luna went to zero and UST collapsed, followed by the entire crypto market, and some people will decide to take some profits now because a long bear market is ahead and they might need this money for living expenses, or just for the opportunity to invest again with the profit after some time when the market starts to reverse bullish again and the prices are on a high discount. Also, Richard Hart said that he is 100% sure that most of the big crypto influencers sacrifice for Pulse, and you know that they are not passionate community members, so they will most likely sell on the first pump to take out their initial investment and make as much profit as they can, and eventually buy back when the price settles down. I hear some people say as a reason that whales won't sell their tokens because they will dump the price and that's not what they want. That would mean that they will never sell their tokens because they want the price to go always up, and we don't even need to argue about this. It just doesn't make sense. I'm sure most of you are here to stay because I see the community is very cohesive and believes in Richard Hart, and we all know that the potential of each project is measured by its community. So the price action in the beginning should not worry you too much, and try to keep your emotions away when you either buy or sell. Rule number 1 in crypto is to never fall in love with a coin, and remember to always have cash on hand to buy the dip or just for any emergency, and never go all in, because nothing is guaranteed. Now everything is exciting because we are in a pre-launch phase, and entering the market as early as possible is crucial for the amount of gains you will potentially make. A lot of people are now waiting in front of the gate, and they can't wait for the gate to open so they can flood inside and try to be as early as they possibly can. But when all these people that are now waiting they got in, the hype will come down significantly, and this is when we are going to see how people outside the community will respond to these projects, and that will determine the future growth. However, we are in a bear market and any remarkable moves to the upside after the initial pump are not expected. But I always like to say that bull markets can make you money and bear markets can make you rich. So the best opportunities to get your favorite coins at the lowest price possible are in the bear markets. But don't forget that the price can always go lower from where you bought, so keep that in mind. I want to quickly say that nothing in this video is financial advice and the video was only for educational purposes. Whenever I share my personal opinion, you should not perceive it as something that is guaranteed, and I'm actually curious to see what you actually think about this video. Share with me in the comments if you agree or disagree with something and why. But anyway, I really hope you found some value in this video, and if you did, I'll highly appreciate it if you gave the like button a gentle tap to support my channel. And if you want to see more interesting content in the future, consider subscribing as well, because there's a lot more to come. Subscribing is free and you can unsubscribe at any time. But anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.